Alright, Jack, why don't you see what you can do?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to light it up with this microphone.
Good evening and welcome everyone to the May 21st meeting of the Village of New Paltz Planning Board. Tonight, some administrative business to take care of, then we will be having 2 public hearings and finally some application reviews. I'd like to start out with the minutes from the May 7th meeting. Does anyone have any comments on those or changes? Fine. Get a motion to approve the meetings from the May 7th, or the minutes from the May 7th meeting. So second, all in favor? Aye.
I'm not voting on it. See, none.
Next up, do we have any updates from the village board or the county planning board?
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening, thank you for review stations. Really don't have any updates other than I mentioned at the last meeting. The county planners now regarding warehousing. The warehouses in the county itself, that planning memo is going to be, there's a draft one now that comes to happen. So it seems that's available. It's an important document. Earlier.
Will those guidance, will that guidance affect some of the current proposed projects in the county that we read about? Warehouse projects? Yeah.
Depends on how it's up to them. So,
Yeah. Right.
You would see how. Yeah, probably. Yeah. That's all. Some questions? Thanks. I really good.
Next, our environmental planning board liaison is not here tonight, so I'd like to get any updates from the town planning board.
That's me. So basically my update this evening is about the BESS laws for the town of New Paltz. This is about a extra giant battery that we want to bring to update our systems. It's huge and I don't thoroughly understand it. I circulated a memo to the board so people would understand it. It's been circulated in the town. I know that the school district wants to get involved with this giant battery because they also need the energy. I would assume the village may want to be a part of it as well, and I'm sure that the village is aware of this. Part of the problem is that the only place that they could build the super battery is in the wetlands, so obviously that's really an issue. But there's another part of the law also, which allows for personal batteries. So they're gonna have to make a law so that people can purchase these batteries in their homes, which the town planning board members seem to be in favor of, although they don't seem to be in favor of the giant battery. So that's all I know, and that's the update I have.
Thank you. Next, there is an issue of the updated planning board fee schedule. The village clerk has recommended that we approve an increase of $50 across all planning board fees. That's due to rising costs across the board. So I mean, I can share that document with anyone, but it's pretty much just a $50 increase for all the different items.
It's like an office fee.
Yeah, essentially it's sort of an administration fee.
So we could call it administrative fee.
Well, it will be applying to the specific fees that we're
Right,
charging.
so every bill would be plus $50.
I don't think it's going to be broken out in that way. I just think that some of the fees that are required, such as.
So every fee on every bill could get $50.
Well, we already have a set of fees, and so this is just increasing some of them by $50, right? So-
Yes, I don't think we know exactly how much, it's going to depend on the project, how much it would increase still. So I'd like to get a motion to approve the increase to the planning board fees.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And next up. We have the, we recently received the draft version of the final environmental impact statement for the New Paltz Apartments project. And so I just briefly wanted to talk about that and get the ball rolling, since this is going to be a sizable project. So let's see, actually, maybe Emily, could you just talk to us a little bit about the board's role here, we'll have to do in the next few weeks?
Sure, so we went through the process of the draft environmental impact statement and getting public comment, which we did over the course of several meetings, and also written comment. And so the next stage in the seeker review is producing the final environmental impact statement, which according to the regulations, it consists of the draft EIS, which you already have, any necessary corrections or revisions to that draft, copies of all the substantive comments received with responses to those comments. With responses to those comments. And so the applicant has drafted those things for us, but the FEIS is the board's document. And so we need to take some time as a board to review what the applicant has drafted and see if we want to edit any of it, any of the responses to comments, any of the changes they proposed to the language of the DEIS. So this is for the board to go through and see what changes you want to make so that you feel confident that this final document represents your analysis of the project. I will point out that in producing this final EIS draft, the applicant has proposed a new alternative design that takes into account some of the comments and makes the project more compact and changes the housing mix. So you'll want to look at that. And we are, all of these things are on a timeline. According to the law, the FEIS is supposed to be complete within 45 days of the close of the hearing, which I think that time is already elapsed and we're just now getting the draft. So we're not obviously gonna keep that, but we do need to, keep it progressing. So I would suggest that we schedule time at the next meeting or an upcoming meeting for the board, to prepare in advance by going through the material and talk about any changes that you want to make to this FEIS. There's not another hearing on the FEIS, so there's no need for another hearing. So yeah, that's the next step.
So in essence, even though it says final, this really isn't the final, because the final is gonna be after we make our recommendations about this.
Correct, this is a draft of the final,
Okay.
yeah.
So, are you thinking that we're gonna get this done in the next 60 days, is that the goal?
I would think so,
The next 2 meetings or something?
Yeah, you may wanna, I don't know if you wanna invite the applicant in to discuss it, or you wanna, have the board have a session amongst yourselves, and however you wanna do it.
right, I think, I do think we wanna have the applicant come in, but maybe after the board's had a chance to go through it and, we have a list of questions to ask them, I'm not sure we're gonna be ready to do that next meeting. But I would like for us to all start reading through it and looking at specifically how they responded to our questions and making sure that that's.
Do you want to try it out a little bit?
Yeah, I was thinking about that, maybe I could send an email later this week, just separating it by section, so we can make sure we cover the whole document. Good idea.
And I'll just point out again, I know I've said this every time, but even after this stage is done and the FEIS is complete, then the actual substantive reviews will begin, where the village and town will decide about the annexation, and then the site plan, if that goes forward, a site plan would come back to the planning board, so there's still a lot more review after this.
All right. You have any other questions about?
So I understand the idea of reviewing it and commenting and requesting changes to the document. If we have something that we see in the document that requires explanation, is that just like a note we make to the side and wait for the next time the application is before us, and then that's when the sort of dialogue questions begin?
I guess I'm not sure what sort of comment you're referring to. I mean, if it's something you want changed in this
No,
document,
not
that's
necessarily, it's
Okay.
new information
Okay, it's
that
something you want
requires
flagged
discussion.
for when you're actually working on the
Right.
project design.
That's not this
Yeah.
one, that,
Right, so what we need to decide here is whether the environmental impacts have been identified and mitigated. So that's the focus. If there are project design elements that are outside of that, those would flag for the future. Does that make sense?
And
I know it's not a clear line.
it's not,
Yeah.
but it's okay, I think what I, well, may I give an example? So if you look at the, and I don't mean for this example to take us in a direction, but it would be helpful as an
Yeah,
example.
sure.
So if you look at the fact that it's a nearly 20% reduction in units. But then you look at the limits of disturbance, and those are almost the same from the two proposals. So my question would be, you said, is that sufficiently mitigate the environmental impact? My question would be, well, you made it 20% smaller, but you're disturbing the same amount of property, so no. But is that something we wait to discuss in an application, or is that something we raise here?
I think that's a here.
That's an environmental
Yeah,
impact.
yeah, for sure, yeah.
That's just something that is a good example now of guidance, thank you.
Yeah, I think that there's an addition of I just looked at it briefly, but a solar array that might change the disturbance.
Ironically.
Got it. Okay. Got it.
Alright, I'm just trying to work this out before. Instead of work in progress.
So next I'd like to open the public hearing.
Can I ask, yes, two administrative items? One is, Emily, thank you for sharing a couple examples of public hearing and public comments guidelines from two nearby municipalities. I think that, I looked at both of them, and I think that's exactly the type of guidelines that I'm requesting we consider and maybe adopt in soon. Because it just, it nails almost, it's obviously, we're not the only ones doing this, it's all the points, it's like, keep them to a certain length, please not bring the same point multiple times, please offer them in writing if possible, because then you might be able to summarize them in comment. And I think it really would help us move through public hearings in a more effective way without limiting or squelching the information folks are here to share.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read through those, but I do like the idea of kind of distilling them into our own version and then adopting them.
Specifically the part about public comment, right, because both of those
Public
examples
hearings.
have a lot of other elements about planning board operation.
I was speaking specifically about public hearings.
Yeah.
And not even public comment.
Gotcha.
But we could do both. So would the board find it useful for me to take a crack at synthesizing the best points and maybe coming with a summary?
Yeah, thank you.
That's great. I will work on that hopefully for the next meeting. And then the only other thing I want to do in administrative business is I want to acknowledge that this is Autumn's last meeting. Until we falls planning. And thank you for everything you've done.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, could not have done it without you, that's for sure. Okay, next I'd like to move on to our public comment. If anyone here would like to make a comment that it's not regarding the two public hearings we have tonight, please raise your hand. Yes, Mr. Dunn.
Um, The one concern with the project Port Seven prospect is the size. It is larger than it needs to be. They could be what they want, 2 dwelling units with 9 bedrooms, can be achieved with a significantly smaller footprint. And that would be more in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and not as visually intrusive. So what I'm having before we look at would be what it would look like. You can see the similarity between the upper building and the it uses the same additional building that they're proposing, the large prefab building that they built, and it uses and it gives everything that the application asks for on a much smaller footprint. The other concern that I wanted to mention is that the project has never been presented in a way that was fully code compliant. And the floor plan that they recently, within the last month, finally supplied is actually worse than anticipated. The floor plan they supplied is not does not show what the application describes. The application is very simply to add another building to the existing building. The floor plan they show indicates rebuilding, a substantial remodeling of your house, original house, as well as the addition of the new place. So it's really what they're showing now in terms of actual development is a significantly more complicated and larger project than what was originally proposed in terms of the configuration of the interior space. And as I mentioned last time, it's substantially not code compliant. So there's really a lot that needs to be done with it. This, besides being a smaller footprint, is 100% code compliant. So there are no problems with in that regard. And it gives them, as I say, what they're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here tonight that would like to make a public comment? Yes, please come up.
Hi,
Yeah.
Allison Nash, as you know, 11 Prospect. I just want to support Terry's proposal for smaller footprint. This is such a large project. All of our neighbors came out really concerned about the project, and if it could be done on a smaller scale and still giving Sam and Rick what they want, I urge you to look at his proposal and also his concerns about the site plan. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment? Okay. In that case, I'd like to move on to our first public hearing. Could I have a motion to open the public hearing for PB 2408, 21 Colonial Drive?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to make a comment on 21 Colonial Drive? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing for 21 Colonial Drive.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I'd like to get a motion to open the public hearing for PB 2409 to Taylor Street. In the second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone here to make a public comment on, to Taylor Street? Okay, in that case, could I get a motion to close the public hearing for PB 2409 to Taylor Street?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so, for our first application, review of the evening, PB 2309 7 Prospect Street. Hello,
The engineer, sorry, he couldn't make it connect.
that's not a problem. Okay. So did you have a chance to review the resolution of approval?
Yes.
And just for the record, I was wondering if we could just clarify that issue about the floor plan and the planning board's role in reviewing the floor plans for state code or state law.
Sure, so just to clarify, we did have a floor plan for the addition throughout this review process. It was an inset on the plan. And because of requests, we did ask the applicant to provide a more detailed floor plan showing both the existing and the new portions of the building. As an extra thing that the board wanted for its review. But I don't believe that rendered the application incomplete up till that point. I think that was an extra thing that the board asked for. But we did throughout the review have a floor plan. So I wanted to make that point. And secondly, just say that the next stage after the planning board's role is really to look at the interaction of the site with the neighborhood and the community and the way it's all laid out. And the next stage after site plan review is that the building inspector will have to look at the detailed engineering plans and issue a building permit. So at that stage is when the building inspector, who is authorized under the code to make sure everything complies with state building code and fire code, the building inspector will check all of that. So.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Were there any other questions from the board about this?
Well, one thing I would want to say, just for the record, is the only way that we could consider an application or a change in the application that was presented by the community would be if you were to withdraw your application and resubmit it according to the recommendation of the community. So did you plan on doing that? Okay,
I've been going through this for 2 years now.
thank you.
All right, in that case, I'd like to move on to the resolution of approval. So the property. Okay. Let's see, Prospect Estates LLC seeks approval of a site plan to build an addition onto an existing single-family dwelling and convert it to a two-family dwelling. There are no specific conditions for this resolution of approval. Although we have discussed with you about the colors of the sidings, and I'm still choosing appropriate siding colors. Okay, what is?
So it's just a friendly condition, I did. I think your neighbors would really appreciate it. If there's a way that you could build an enclosed garbage area. It seems that the garbage is getting out of control and I had tenants also, and it does get out of control. And in this case, I think it would be a good idea to have an enclosed garbage area, so that the garbage is in one place and everybody keeps an eye on making sure that goes where it's gotta go.
We'll have a combined area for 5 and 7, so this way both of them could share.
And is that going to be fenced in?
It depends how the garbage truck can get to it.
That's a
Yeah,
friendly idea.
that's your thought.
Okay. So given that there are no other specific conditions and just some of the usual general conditions, I'd like to get a motion to approve the site plan for 7 Prospect Street. And could we have a roll call vote, please? Autumn? Oh, yes, sorry, can we get a second for that?
Well, second.
Rich Ditto,
Aye.
Harry Nolan,
Aye.
Edie Con,
Aye.
Zach Island,
Aye.
Vicky voters for this meeting,
Yes.
Amy Nielsen.
Aye.
Thank you. You have your approval
Thank you very much.
and
Thank you, good luck.
next, could we have PB 2408 21 Colonial Drive come up, please?
You got your people.
She's on tonight.
Hello.
Can you introduce yourself?
Carmela Compton, New Paltz Gardens.
Welcome back. So. I mean, we did locate the 1965 site plan and, it looks like the updated pool area doesn't conflict with anything that's on that approved site plan.
There wasn't a lot of detail on.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah.
Looking.
Someone's.
plans. But at this point, I don't have any other questions. Does the board have anything that they wanted to ask? No. Okay, well, in that case, I'd like to get a motion authorizing our attorney to draft a resolution approval.
So,
Second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. And so we will
Thank
be
you,
back
thank
here.
you very much, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Every time.
Thank you.
Next up, PB 2319 to Taylor Street. Hello.
Hello.
So I see tonight that we're looking at a new revised site plan with a few changes. Can you just walk us through any of the changes on that site plan?
Sure. The only update is that added a retaining wall at the southern edge of the property along Taylor Street. That's the lowest corner of the property going along Taylor Street towards the intersection with Cooper. The sidewalk rises fairly quickly, and then going up along the drainage right of way, it rises even faster. So it's just a way to make a slightly flatter backyard. The material is going to be like a Rosetta Stone or similar, meaning precast concrete system, maximum of 5 foot tall. identical to the one already approved on the adjacent property. That's the nearest of the townhomes at the backside there again, because that existing 10 Taylor, which is just to the west, 2 Taylor, it's low, and then the Cooper is high, and then 2 Taylor is the transition between the two, and so that's why there's the request and need or preference for retaining walls there to improve the flatness, and also to allow, similar to the adjacent property on Cooper, that you can have a privacy hedge that will create a little bit of a backyard, because 2 Taylor, as you can see, it has 3 side street. And so to give them a little bit of privacy, this would assist with that. And so it's also, I forget the exact amount, but I did update the percentage of coverage on the bulk table, and it's still well under the maximum allowable coverage. So those are the only changes from the last time that we saw each other.
Okay, and so did you say that there are other houses in this neighborhood that have retaining walls also, or is this a
Well,
unique?
there are other retaining walls that are all sitestone that are right adjacent to the houses throughout the neighborhood, zero net energy buildings. But there's not yet a retaining wall on the property, because the three townhome buildings were approved but have not yet been built. And they might start, because they're condominiums and there's a separate process for that, they might start construction after, well, 2 Taylor's already begun construction.
Right, okay,
So, but anyway, those are going to match. They're going to be visually, you can see both of them from the same area, and they had very similar limitations in terms of 5-foot maximum height. And they'll be matching material, which, you can tell the builder and everyone wants it to look good. And so it will be, and samples could be given to you. They haven't decided what they want yet. They haven't priced things, they haven't gotten there yet. But so we wanted to make sure, as soon as we knew, that you guys would know in advance of approving anything.
I'm sorry, you compared this retaining wall, which is basically on the south side of the property, to a proposed retaining wall up by the condominium property. Weren't the retaining walls on the condominium property on the west side of that property?
You can see the one retaining wall that I'm referring to, which is on the south side of the townhome property, that's also on this site plan.
it's like 8 Cooper.
No, that is, but he's comparing.
10 Cooper, because there's 6, 8, and 10 Cooper, and 10 Cooper is the southernmost of them, the one that's kind of at the turn in Cooper. And the one that's adjacent to these 3 parcels are together, 10 Taylor, 10 Cooper, and 2 Taylor. And so they're all right there, and there's a bunch of grade change
Okay, so the existing.
there. If you've driven around, you see, Taylor lines down and around to be roughly level with the community center.
Yeah.
But there's a hill between the Colonial Arms apartments and Cooper Street. And so those will be walkout basement, the townhomes. Anyway,
And how tall is the retaining wall proposed to be at its tallest?
5-foot maximum.
So it'll be 5 feet above the sidewalk grade.
Yes, it'll be roughly level. The property line is not far from the sidewalk, but it's a foot or so from the sidewalk, according to the plan. And then the retaining wall can be right there at the foot, and it's probably right there at the cul-de-sac of Taylor. That's where it will be 5 foot, right there at the corner, where it has that short return. And then it will fade. It'll be level top, and it'll fade as the hill goes back up towards Cooper. And so it basically, you can see it's basically straight. as soon as the road starts curving, if you're out there looking at it, that's about where it's gonna stop, and it's probably, instead of fading to zero, it's gonna stop about 2 foot and just stop. Both of the endpoints of the wall will be about that, and I believe that's a similar detail, again, to this other adjacent retaining wall. So they'll match and have some cohesive design aesthetic in between.
And then the grade of the backyard will match the top of the wall pretty much, or it slopes down to the wall.
It
That's
certainly
steep
still,
slope.
it still slopes down from the basement level, basement walkout level, and they have considered making the basement taller, basically pushing the floor down to make it more level, but they were hammering and no, we're just gonna leave it at the height that it was. It's already like 8'4", it's nice basement height, so we're not gonna get silly there. Anyway, so that was, the retaining wall was more necessary, and again, telling you about it.
I see. Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering how the neighbors are gonna feel about this. I mean, there is gonna be a 5-foot wall on the side. And I understand when you came in with your original plans, I mean, I was here for those public hearings, they were very supportive of your plans. And I just wish they knew about it before we went and improved it.
Well, right now, we're approving, right, the additional deck or porch or deck, something like
I think
that.
it's just a thing.
So are you, is the question whether we should have an additional public hearing regarding the retaining wall? I think that's a question for the board. I mean, you can make minor adjustments, but it depends how.
Right,
significant.
it's significant.
Right.
No,
Visually, people are gonna see a 5-foot wall on the side.
It's unusual, actually.
They might get upset.
It's more common in like a commercial district on Main Street where you have, like, we have some of those, but pretty unusual in a residential.
We don't expect credentials.
One other question about it is there any anticipation that it could affect, fire access? To the back of the house?
no, because just there's no wall. It's not really any further to go around the wall if the wall is too tall. It's really not much that it would be at the, maximum height there. It's probably the one that's at the back of 10 Taylor is probably going to be more of a uniform height of 5 foot or so. This one's gonna be a bit of a smaller wall. Right.
Did the building inspector comment about this wall yet?
The building inspector did. We were in contact directly with Alex. And he said it can be right up to the edge of the property line. That's not a problem. And I believe the other one is also right along the property line. It's code compliant to be in that location. And so there's no, possibly harking back to the previous project discussion, that's not an issue. But I understand it's an aesthetic as opposed to a code compliance issue. I mean, certainly I found the community tends to be very supportive of, new builds. They usually come out quite nice. I haven't, you don't tend to see them here saying, I don't want people building on that last buildable lot or similar. And nobody came out even about the townhomes, which would be more of a, intrusion potentially, but I don't believe there was any neighborhood out speaking about that. So I certainly understand your caution. Say that it's probably not that a significant a thing, but
Okay.
The board will make its own. But we've come back a few times through the route, and so some of the fees attended upon another public hearing and such are possibly not required in this case. So
Understandable. I mean, we'll try to figure this out at this meeting. The one major question I had also was how will this affect the stormwater runoff? Is this gonna be diverting a lot more water towards 10 Taylor Street?
No, it shouldn't have any measurable effect on stormwater. It's still gonna be sloping in that direction, though it won't have as steep a slope. And so in fact, for lead requirements, that's one of the reasons we have those retaining walls, because there are limitations on the steepness of the slope. So overall, that should help in terms of resisting erosion better than having, say, a grassy knoll, which would be, you know, what you'd have there is, you know, finding whatever your slope that would hold, you know, without a built intrusion. And all of these engineered walls, the precast, they have like constant drainage between them. They don't have, you know, so the specifications are about the gravel backfill. And so they don't hold water behind. They let it out, it should go out, you know. They work really well. Those don't fail for, you know, water, hydrostatic pressure.
Sure,
You know,
right, so it's
damaging.
what I'm hearing is that because it's a shallower grade, more water is going to be absorbed. It's not necessarily going to run off to the other side.
That's correct. That should overall make for, you know, lower pitch slopes, and so that should be
Yeah,
more environmentally sound in terms of runoffs and stormwater concerns. So it should be a, you know, other than theoretically having impervious surface, which I included, it shouldn't really, you know, create runoff by its nature.
well, what does the board think? Does this warrant a public hearing, or do we move forward with the resolution approval this time?
May I just, I'm sorry that I don't know, I'm asking, Jerry and I don't even think we're agreeing on what we're pointing to, but I think it would matter to me if I understood the exact position of the retaining wall that was already approved, that you referred to. You referred to it as the adjacent to the west of the condominium, south of the condominium and west of 2 Cooper, but I'm looking at it as, or 2 Taylor. But I'm looking at, I'm thinking it's at 10 Taylor. So first of all, what is the address of the comparable retaining wall?
10 Taylor.
That this.
Sorry,
board
10
approved?
Cooper. 10 Cooper is that first townhome
And it's,
that's direct adjacent to 2 Taylor.
and
Don
in your
Cooper.
plan, it's not drawn with the same shaded or fixed line as.
You know,
Retaining wall.
the one for
you
this
presented.
client got a 3rd line. And that was representing a little bit. Yeah, I copied this icon from the other icon from the engineer's drawings, because there was an engineer involved in the site plan for the townhomes, because it was 3 lots and that was a bigger review and all that. And he just had a rectangle, and I just copied that rectangle in. And then when I was doing this plan, I put a 3rd line in, so that made it look heavier, but it was supposed to
So,
be.
but am I correct in understanding that a retaining wall with the same dimensions in the same position relative to the sidewalk was approved in this development?
No, so not positioned relative to sidewalk. And right, so, don't mean to be confusing about that. This is
That's okay.
unique
It's
as,
not really confusing. I'm just making sure I understand.
yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the comparable one, if you look at the 10 Taylor, the existing house that is there of the 3 that we're kind of looking at, that whole side yard area behind there and around their garage, it's fairly level. And then on both sides, basically around their property line, it slopes up towards the adjacent properties. And so right at the border between the 10 Taylor and 10 Cooper, there's going to be a retaining wall. And I think that one is going to tend to be, by the nature of the slope, roughly, you know, 5 foot or so, whatever the maximum height. I think it's be roughly the same height along most of its length because of the slope there. And it looks like it's longer than this one will be, because this one has more dynamic sloping at that area going on. And so it's got this one low corner that's by the cul-de-sac, and all of it is along the sidewalk, because that is the, backside of this property that has 3 streets frontages along it. But that is the rear yard, as we have had some flexibility in deciding, which was front, which was back. Anyway, so this solves, it's not absolutely necessary. It should improve things. It should be an aesthetic benefit, I think. I don't think it will be an eyesore or something that is, a hazard or a community nuisance that's objectionable to the community. I think it'll just be one of those features, because they do such nice retaining walls. Most of them are just quite beautiful, even if this is a different material.
Do you want to look at the street view? It kind of helped me visualize how
Okay. That's right.
how it would look
There you go.
here.
I got it.
So it would go along here.
Pictures of all the signs.
If we look at it from like this angle. Curve around and just be about 5 foot along there. Tapering off as the sidewalk grows.
Unique feature though, it's the only one of its kind in the community. This one. And I know you mentioned the type of material.
Yeah, this
I
is
know you
not
meant-
flat.
I know you mentioned the type of material, but is the type of material that you'd like to use documented anywhere in the plan?
It is not, because Anthony Abbey hasn't picked the material yet.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing, possibly this would be helpful in response to the board's questions and concerns. That the materials still need to be submitted for approval in advance. That could be a contingency of approval. Because it's supposed to be, and I don't want to tie his hands, I have a lot of faith in him, but you don't have to have quite as much faith as I do. I
Well,
don't,
for
that sounds like
example, if
a
we're trying to
compromise.
decide, we're trying to decide, and thanks for that. So if we're trying to decide whether the feature will be an acceptable aesthetic addition or even an improvement as described. It could be made of cinder block and look really terrible, or it could be made of a stone that the community would approve of. So I would say that's important to have at least as a specific condition, if not as something that the board might even consider before we approve it.
Yes,
I mean, it would be good if we could see kind of how it's going to look.
I can't wait myself. It's some of it is, that's certainly reasonable from our perspective, because it's not the next thing happening. It's not like it's holding anything up. So there's time for them to figure out what it's going to be, and you to say that looks good and it's approvable.
Okay.
Does that?
How could we structure that as a specific condition, so the board could have,
Mr. Chairman, could we approve of the deck tonight and just not approve the wall and ask them to come back?
You could approve a resolution, to prepare a resolution for the version with the deck and not the wall.
true, yeah,
I think.
that's an interesting.
I would be willing to do that.
Look, I'll be honest with you, a 5-foot high wall. Pretty much on a sidewalk. Is gonna become an attractive nuisance. Somebody's gonna hop off that wall. Right above the sidewalk. Whatever.
Do you have a height limitation that would, or a distance,
I don't know, I just.
Well, in terms of process, aren't there 2 options that we could have? One is to vote for a resolution to be prepared to approve the deck. And you'd have to reapply entirely in order to make the retaining wall approved feature of the property. Or we could feel as though we want to either continue to consider or ask to open a public hearing about the wall and keep the application as a single unit, but just have that additional step. Because if you came back with the wall as your additional proposal, you'd need to do a public hearing and full application process anyway. So that's gonna be either way.
Right. So is it something we'd keep open? We'd come back about the deck and we'd come back with material samples and more information, so you'd feel comfortable.
I mean, it's,
Maybe a
I
height
think Rich is
limitation.
posing it as a question to you, would you rather us do the resolution just for the deck, or would you rather keep them combined and rather?
We're already doing this twice. I feel like twice would be great if we kept it from being 3 times.
Yeah, so we can do it.
We'll just keep it open
Because
then
we're not
and
anywhere
we'll
near
get to where,
So you'll come back with some drawings and some ideas of what types of materials you would prefer to use.
yeah, I'll poke Anthony and say it's time to make a decision and he'll work with Patrick.
You know, there's some kind of
Come up.
visualization, you know, you can draw, take that street view. And put the wall in it, so we can see it.
And Terry, when you're talking about the risk and the, you know, the public awareness of this, do you feel like there's any, that the height of that wall would limit your concern around it as well?
If it was lower, I would be less concerned.
Yeah.
However, I do know what that slope is. I know it very well.
And is that because you'd be less concerned aesthetically, or you'd be less concerned from maybe the risk of other issues?
Both.
Like a kid riding his bike and thinking that'd be fun and doing it.
Yeah.
I would have done that.
Yeah, so it's what, you know, it would be nice.
The plant things
I
are
mean,
important.
you've said that the wall is not absolutely necessary, however, that said. If it could be shorter, that would be better, but I think more than anything, I'm just trying to. Put myself in the shoes of the neighbors. That all of a sudden there's a wall on that sidewalk and they didn't know anything about it. So, you know, if you could give us some visuals. That would be great.
Yeah, and that's why I feel more comfortable with the hearing, that offers the public, the neighbors a chance to look at the wall. I don't think we should approve the wall without the neighbors having a chance to see it in the plan.
You know, to me, that would be ideal.
So maybe we should ask them to come back with some pictures and descriptions of the materials, and we should set, another public hearing.
After we see the materials, I think, yeah.
Okay, wonder if there's any way we could. Speed that up a little or eliminate one of those steps.
I'd be willing to set a public hearing.
Set the public hearing now.
Why don't we
But
just?
the public hearing would have to, the information about the hearing would have to include some idea of material, so they need to have the material.
Like
like,
when?
Tomorrow, or have a public hearing that considers the material.
Right, or we set the public hearing for nothing immediately next meeting, you know. Yeah, could be 2 meetings, and that would give them more.
But we don't. Just ask the material, see, right, prepare the material for the next meeting, have the public hearing following.
Just.
Agree.
Let's do that.
But then we could.
Okay. And I know that's not, you know, an ideal case, but it's certainly, I think, our responsibility.
I feel very comfortable with that.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so I think what the board would like to do is to. Set the public hearing, set the date for that, and with the. Assumption that you will provide us with the updated. You know, information that we asked for. Including building materials and some visualization, and then we can have that hearing just so everyone's aware of what's happening. Do you think that?
Push to the next week.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, please go ahead.
Sure, do you think you would have that ready for our?
I don't think that needs to be pushed, squeezed in time as it's work. The deck is not also the next thing happening. This is not holding up the project. We do not have the time.
Okay,
Would you like to come back?
so then why
Maybe
don't,
just skip one.
yeah, why
and
don't we
that way.
schedule it for June 18th?
Judicious.
Yeah, hearing, yeah. Autumn, that is the second meeting in June, right? 18th?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to get a motion to set the public hearing for PB 2319 for
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for your time tonight, and for bearing with us.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, review makes the project better.
Thanks.
Absolutely. That's what I've seen.
You would go.
I can work together.
Thanks. Next we have PB 2411 218 Main Street. Is the applicant here? Oh, yes.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hi.
Yep. Great.
Okay. So can you describe what the applicant?
Absolutely. Thanks for taking your time to review our project again. I know you've taken a look at this 3 times, to the initial approval and then an amendment. So we're back to amend the site plan for the hopefully final time here, so we can keep things moving. So I'll turn it over to Charlotte. She can give you a brief overview. Charlotte is the owner of the property, and maybe she can just give you a quick backstory on why we're here. Charlotte, you hear us? Oh, Charlotte, I think you are muted.
There we go. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so yes, thanks for having us again. We are, when we first bought this building, we were anticipating to use it for ourselves for expansion of our offices. But as times changed, we don't quite need as much space as what we originally planned. So we planned on looking for tenants. And in that process, we wanted to be very thoughtful about what goes into that building, because we've put a lot of care to make it a nice addition to the community. So we have been talking to Little Loaf Bakery, and I'm really excited about their company. They're a young company and very popular vegan baker, and I think they'd be a really nice fit in our building. That's what we're here for, to talk to them. And in the process of talking to them, they wanted the whole first floor, which also we had to have our architects figure out how we could get to the second floor without going through the hallway that we had originally planned. So that's part of it as well. And I think Little Loaf is here to talk about their business also. I mean, they're currently in Poughkeepsie. I know Poughkeepsie really wanted them to stay, but I think they love New Paltz. I think it's a good fit for both for the community and for them as well. And I'm really excited to try to make it work.
The food is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I mean, do you want to tell us a little about your bakery and what you expect the clients to be and traffic to be like?
Yeah, we're a Little Loaf Bake Shop. We are an all vegan bakery. We specialize in croissants and breakfast pastries. Moving into a retail location, we'd also expand into cakes and probably bread. So we'd be a full-scale bakery. We'd have a retail presence. So the front would have a nice seating area. We also do festivals as well as wholesale. One of our clients is Augusta's Luscious, that's also in New Paltz. And we'll be doing a farmer's market in New Paltz starting in a few weeks just to get people introduced to us there. And so this is really an opportunity for us to expand and really show off our skills and really have a place where people can not only get our pastries throughout the week, you know, commuters coming in to get a coffee and a pastry, but also on the weekends doing breakfast, lunch, brunch, where people can hang out. We do have a following from other places in New York, as well as vegans love to travel for food because having great food is not something that is accessible all the time when you're vegan, like we are. And so we have customers that already travel from Pennsylvania, from Massachusetts, from New Jersey, up to our spot. So we're hoping that it can be a vegan destination. You know, because there's Moonburger, there's Lagustas. So I think it could be a really cool opportunity.
Great, thank you.
So, in terms of how that impacts the plan, the footprint stays the same as the prior approval. So the, you know, the form, all the materials stay the same, landscaping does not change. So what does change is to get access to the second floor without going through the new bakery. We're gonna add a side door, so there's a new concrete walkway. So from this rear parking lot, the second floor tenants would have access to come up the concrete walkway to a side door and then go up the stairs to their office space. So there's no, you know, running through the bakery to get upstairs to your office anymore like the previous setup. The parking count stays the same. We still have the 12 existing spaces. The only change is that 2 of them, we're gonna provide a proposal for EV charging at two spaces. And then we used to have 2 bike parking spaces in the front, but you know, I think like to encourage more people to bike to this location. So there's more bike parking. So there's 4 spots now in front. But other than that, the rest of the plan really stays the same. Oh, sorry, there is an enclosed dumpster, you know, within the rear parking area here, you know, out of the setbacks as required. So that would be screened off. But again, yeah, the overall form stays the same. The lot coverage increases minimally, you know, it's a 1.5%. So it's 60% of the lot coverage. We're still well below, you know, the 85% allowed. So, yeah, it's really just to introduce the change in use. And there is a, you know, request for a special permit since there will be, you know, there's a patio as we had seen previously. But now that would be accessible from the bakery. So there would be outdoor seating. And I do have the floor plans, you know, if that helps. You know, again, so you come up from the street, the accessible walkway around that entry garden with the native plants. So then you have the bike parking and then there's the patio in front. So really the first floor plan, really 2/3 of it is really, you know, bakery operations. There's a small coffee bar and then that front room would be cafe seating. So the patio and cafe seating are, you know, towards the front of the building facing the street.
And where the plan reads proposed 1-story addition, that's bakery,
That was part of the prior approval, actually. So the form you see out there now
but whose
is,
lease is that? Building?
oh, sorry. So the addition is this back area here. It's like 3.5 feet. So that on the ground floor is part of the bakery.
Yeah.
And on the second floor is part of the office space.
And then the part to the, what would be like the northwest of that says proposed 1-story addition, is that also the bakery?
Yeah, so that would be the entry to the bakery and there's nothing on the second floor above that. So that's a front entry, you know, a double height, kind of, or a taller entryway.
And then the door that would second floor office space is located where?
So that is So if you're going to the office, you would, you park in the back.
Yeah.
And then you'd come up this new sidewalk that we're providing here on the side of the building. And that's all behind, there's an existing stockade fence along the property line.
Yeah.
From the prior approval, we're gonna continue that and, return it to the building, hold it back a little bit, just to enclose, there's a generator and then, some other equipment back there. So all of that is happening behind that fence.
And if you wanted to visit the offices and you're a pedestrian, you just walk around the back of the building.
Right, yeah, because the parking spaces wouldn't start till, behind where you're walking anyway, so you could walk. You could come up the main entry and down the stairs and around, or just walk, down along the driveways if you wanted to as well.
Okay. So is the parking calculation on this?
It is.
Yeah, it's on the site plan, the first page here. So we broke it out with the different uses. So we're reallocating the amount of spaces that we had originally when it was all office space. There's still ample parking. There's actually one additional space we need, but I guess that's a better direction to go than not enough. And then we do have additional bike parking as well. And there's a bus line out front as well. If that's a way for people to experience the building, that'd be great as well.
And the parking calculation is only based on the seating for the outdoor cafe. It's not so that the bakery, the indoor aspect of the bakery is only for production and baking, not for guests.
Most of it is for baking, but there would be a small coffee bar, and then there is a space for some seating. In discussing this with Alex, I was looking at the code for the B2 zone, which we're in. And within that code, there's a section that's for retail or for business, and there's different parking calculations in there. So in reviewing this, we looked at this as the retail bakery as falling within that retail use, and then additional parking for the patio seating outside of that. So that has a separate metric.
So the 3 spaces called retail are for the 500 square feet. It's for the 1,500 square feet of the bakery, and then the 4 spaces are for the outdoor cafe.
For the outdoor.
So there's 7 total dedicated to the operation of.
Yeah, right.
Will the office have reserved spaces that are marked and unavailable for customers?
That is a good question. I don't know if that's been discussed, Charlotte, or if it would just be.
No, we plan on just doing it first come, first serve. We do encourage our tenants, if they're there all day, like employees, to park, elsewhere, to leave room open for customers coming and going. And to bike.
Got it.
And if you can get there before the baker gets there, good luck, I guess. So those spots will be taken, I would imagine.
12 spaces provided, yeah.
5 real
Yeah,
and employees.
well, right, 4 required, but. Okay. Well, this was reviewed by our building inspector and provided a zoning code review that had no concerns noted there. Does the board think that any other consultants are needed to review this, or I don't know, like traffic or anything?
Will you actually be baking on site? You will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you envision things like grease traps or anything like that?
We're actually talking with the plumber to see if that's necessary. It might not be necessary for our operations, but we're looking into it to see.
So is this like gonna be a commercial kitchen where you're going to be producing wholesale out of this location, or are you just going to be doing a cafe out of this location?
We're producing all of our products there. So we'll have an oven, we'll have a gas range as well.
So my question is, are you producing products that are not going to be sold on premises, that are gonna be sold in alternate locations for wholesale? Or is this premises going to be baking just for the premises?
We'll be doing, so we have wholesale as well as festivals that we do and farmers markets. So we will be producing on site pastries and food, and then we will be doing pastries to be sold elsewhere.
Yeah, and this is our only location. Currently, we're at the underwear factory in Poughkeepsie, the incubator kitchen, and we're out of space. And so it'll be our higher production.
So what is your loading and unloading like?
We will have a space in the back where the staircase is, where the truck that's carrying all of our raw materials, that they can park there, and our raw materials would go in through the back. As well as if we're doing festivals, we'd also probably have we'd be loading in and loading out, but that's very early in the morning.
Yeah.
So that where it's labeled, that land is for delivery shops that are loading, for their loading.
So you're your own distributor? And you're going to distribute directly from this premises?
Yes.
Correct.
Do you think we need to know some of those questions around grease or ventilation?
I don't know if that's the purview of the code enforcement official, municipal code official. Certainly it is.
In the restaurant have different requirements in our code book?
Yeah, I'm sure that, well, certainly in the building code, yes, yeah. I mean, it's a commercial kitchen. You fry any of your products? I mean, do you have a grill? Do you have to put in the fire suppression systems?
I imagine we'll need an Ansel system if we have, I think that there's gas that's gonna be put into the building, so we will have a range for a stove. So I imagine that will be part of it. We don't fry anything, we don't make donuts, we don't do fries or anything like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, it would be interesting to be a code review just to see whether whether the plan is required to include the types of kitchen utilities that we would normally see in a restaurant or in other types of production plans.
Sure.
Because it seems like it's enough of a production that maybe we should just all confirm that the right ventilation is there, or the right grease storage there. I'm not positive, but I think our code review should include that, and I don't know if he did, so.
Yeah,
could we
any
ask
of
that?
our updates, so we filed for the building permit,
Yeah.
which was approved when it was, as you see it now, office space. So any
Yeah.
revisions to that plan is going back to the building department for
Yeah.
approval before they can continue with the kitchen work.
But I think maybe if we could ask Alex to look at that now,
Yeah.
because if there are any exterior changes for ventilation or anything that might affect the site plan, we don't wanna
Yeah.
have to come back here again, right?
Sure, right.
Yeah.
So maybe ask Alex, because I'm not sure if you have that information about it being a commercial kitchen for wholesale production. That he might just need to check what fire code provisions would be necessary.
Fire code, and also anything that may need to live on the roof.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like mushroom ventilation or anything like that, just let's confirm that.
Are you on public sewer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion to do that. We can just refer that to him, ask him to look at those specific items. Yeah, I don't really see a need for any other consultant reviews, but does the board agree? Okay. In that case, I think we can, at least. Well, first, set escrow, so. I'd like to get a motion to set escrow at $1,000,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Actually, I'm not sure anybody moved. Who moved? in
I
that?
thought you
Howard.
attributed it to you.
Um,
Right.
okay, we'll give that one to Nikki. Then, secondly, I'd like to get a motion to, classify this project as a seeker type 2 reuse of an existing building.
So, second.
All
Aye.
in favor? Aye. And I guess at this time, do we want to set a public hearing, or should we wait until we hear if there are any other exterior changes needed from Alex? Might be advisable.
We could set a public hearing for 4 weeks or for one meeting away and give Alex that 2 weeks to establish that. Always.
So June 18th again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you think the owners.
Yeah, unless, I mean, I think the plan is pretty set. I don't, I don't wanna force Alex to jump on it too quickly, but I think we have enough developed with the kitchen plan to be able to make some quick decisions on if there's a vent hood somewhere, if, if we're gonna be seeing anything else on the exterior. And hopefully we could do that at the, before the next meeting. If you're comfortable with the public heat.
I mean, I think you would have to turn around the notices pretty quickly, but if you're willing to do that and stick to that timeline, I'm open to scheduling it for the 4th.
Is there actually a new floor plan that shows the kitchen and?
Should be in the 3rd page.
First floor plan. Shows the bakery to the, would be the east side. I think it's a little coffee bar.
I got, okay, I'm sorry.
And it has a lot of like rectangles and squares, but we don't know exactly what those things are in terms of the kitchen equipment. So if that could just be detailed, then Alex could clear whether it requires anything.
Yeah, that's
Any
all.
engineering we would want to have included, that's it.
Sure.
Autumn just sent me the link for the grease separator. Part in the code, it says that all commercial kitchens and restaurants need to have, some form of a grease
trap, yeah.
trap, yeah. So, it just makes me wonder, is this something that Blue would need to look at regarding the sewer? Because it's a different type of use, or is that?
Probably not a bad idea. I mean, he's gonna wanna have it. He's gonna want to see a cleanup on the side of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Was the,
Sending it to him.
public superintendent?
Okay.
Thanks.
Right, well, if you are confident that you'll be able to get this information for June 4th, then we can schedule that for the public hearing. Is that?
So sound good, Charlotte, for the?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'd like to get a motion to schedule a public hearing for. What's this, 218 Main Street for June 4th.
So.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And I think that's all for tonight.
Okay, great. We appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
All right, lastly, we have 11 Morris Street. Back again.
Hello. Thanks for taking the time. To meet. So yeah, we wanted to, after careful consideration, make some changes to our plan that we think is gonna be less problematic for the community. It's probably more in line with our current business model, which doesn't include a food and beverage component. And for the community at large, I feel like it's, you know, we're gonna drive traffic to everybody's businesses, so.
I think it was a really mature decision.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. It was painful, being that we spent so much time working together, and you know, I'm sorry to have wasted everybody's time on that restaurant.
I think it's very generous of you. Honestly, I think we have a lot of beautiful establishments already in our community, and I think your customers are gonna be very happy to be able to pick from all the different wonderful places that we're already offering. And you're gonna be able to have a couple more customers at your hotel, so it's a win-win for everyone, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with the changing of the floor plan. I think the one thing that the board needs to discuss is the parking issue.
Right.
So what are you proposing right now?
So right now, I think, you know, we are required to have 33 spaces rounding up to from 32.2 to 33 spaces. You know, my feeling is that we're still going to see people come, you know, public transportation, similar to Woodstock, because we're close on a bus route. So, that being said, we'd like to activate the one space in the loading zone. And, you know, refrain potentially from activating those 2 additional spaces. And then keep them as a land bank option. If that works for you guys, it would work for us. So we would have 31 spaces total. And we would be land banking 2 at where that landscaped area is, by where the sidewalk meets on the north end of the property.
So the way the final resolution was prepared, we never really designed those other 2 spaces. We used the rationale that because the restaurant and the hotel would have overlapping clients, that you could reduce the number of parking spaces. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the final plan showed the 30 spaces plus the 1 loading space, 31. And while we discussed the option of taking the landscaping out and adding more spaces, I don't believe we have a design for that or an approval for that. So, you know, that would be an option if you wanted to get up to 33 that way, but we would need that to be, to land bank the spaces, we'd have to have it so that you could in the future build those without coming back to the planning board. So we would need to have them designed.
Can I just be reminded of what the calculation that gets us to the correct number of spaces? It's 28, because there's 28 rooms and it's
Yes.
1 per room.
Correct.
And then it's stacked spaces, the calculation is
3 per 20 rooms.
3 per 20 rooms.
Right.
And you have 28 rooms,
Right.
so
So it's actually 4.2. Yeah, so
because you do it by a ratio like that, exactly, okay, so that's 28 rooms. If it's 3 per 20, wouldn't 8 more just require 1 point something more?
1.2 spaces. Yeah, 1.2 spaces.
Which is where you get 4.2.
Right. Yeah, I know,
So it's 30.
it's 32.2, right,
32.2
Right.
and we round up
right.
in our
Even
planning.
though
in our
0.2 is
planning.
not traditionally a roundup.
And if you're, or even though it's not a roundup.
And we no longer have that rationale of the overlap because it's
Yes,
all.
understood.
hotel.
Thank you for helping me understand that. And what you're proposing with the elimination of the loading area space. Or with the
Inclusion, right.
re-inclusion of the loading area
Yes.
space only gets to 31.
31.
So we have a 1.2 or 2 parking space.
And you can get to 32 if you use the land bank. But if you don't, just say it's landscaping.
Get to
Right.
33. The idea was that 2 more spaces
Yeah,
could go in that.
currently this area right here was the only one that was like in banked. Sorry. No, my question for Emily is there any provision in the code for us to be a little flexible with the parking?
Unfortunately, I think the only provision for that is a variance, which, would be another step that you'd need to go to the ZBA, but it may be something that they would,
Yeah,
entertain.
Is there an easement or an agreement you could present with the property you own adjacent to the hotel that would account for 2 parking spots?
So as it is now, I have a plan for that building and it is to lop off the front of it. Okay, there's an addition that was put on that building. And it was to give more of a sight line and to continue the sidewalk past the easement that we're already granting to the public right of way to enter the trail. We're also going to reduce the bedroom count on that particular home that's now 3 bedrooms to 1 bedroom. And in that particular case, we only need one car parking. So we will have an extra space there. And that space in and of itself, we're, gonna use for the hotel, whether it be for an employee to use for a time, because in our experience, we have a studio now in Woodstock that we have leased to 3 different employees that stay with us for 6 months, 9 months, a year, a little over a year. And they move on, they find another space and then they move on from there. So, and then, it was our plan to, talk to you about that space as well, of us being able to use it as that flex space. Like if we had, it could be an extra room at certain times, but I know we probably need to come back to get an approval for that specifically, which would be a short-term rental approval for the time that it was being short-term rented. So there will be 1 parking space and that front section would actually be sidewalk and landscaping. So no, I mean, outside of that 1 additional parking, actually, is it 1?
So right now there's 3, and you would go to 2 in terms of lopping off the front of the building, or now you have 3.
3 would go to 1.
3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms and we go to 1.
1 bedroom.
And we go to 1 bedroom. Yeah.
But in terms of parking, you'll keep the 3 parking.
No, there's no 3 parking spaces. Actually, there's no 3 parking. No, I know, there's cars all over the place. I know, it's, yeah, I know. So this is gonna be a much, wider sightline when it's completed. So that is just generally an extra space.
I mean, based on the limitations that we have as a planning board. That's all from my perspective is that, I would say that, I would elect toward a referral to the ZBA for a variance on the number of parking spaces required before I would elect to substantially change the landscaping and the appeal of the parking area by land banking two spaces where we now have that green design. I know that, you know, getting that variance will take a couple steps. I can't guarantee that they'll give it, of course, but we could send it with a recommendation, and my recommendation would live in the information we've reviewed in reviewing this application about parking utilization at this, you know, at their other hotel and at comparable properties that we learned from our parking studies, that they're just never at 100% capacity because of public transportation, carpooling, and lots of other variables, especially not if you're not having some sort of a high traffic restaurant. So I feel like you know, I would rather see a variance for the number of spots before I would like to see a really important feature of the property land banked. Because keeping in mind that land banking isn't just to say, if we ever need them, we'll take this back. It's to say you can't do this. Because it has to be parking ready at any time. That's my understanding.
No, it would be an alternate plan that the planning board would approve, so the landscaping could be installed. And then if you find that you don't have enough parking, then you would take it out and put the parking in.
Well, there's that, but then, and then there's also the fact that this road that we were going down was gonna, you know, be I feel like we would have a substantial parking challenge.
You mean the other scenario?
That's in the scenario that was already approved, yeah.
Yeah, but that's behind us.
Correct.
So Emily, I was under the understanding that they couldn't landscape this because it would have to be like turnkey.
No.
Okay. Does everybody else get that? Okay.
Well, yeah, but we would still need to see a site plan that showed how you fit two spaces there, and I'm not.
It once was one.
We had one, yeah.
Yeah,
But you
okay,
would have to then agree that the site plan without that landscaping still meets the, you know, still meets the village's needs.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also very hesitant
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, I hear you. Me too.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me the administrative remedy is to go to the zoning board, so that's what I would recommend. And I'd recommend that they approve it, but that's, to me, that's the remedy.
Okay, and are you willing to go that route, or would you rather not do that?
I mean,
Alternative?
I was hoping not to go that route,
I mean, you could also come back with a different parking configuration that fits those two other
Right.
spots in there, but it might be tricky.
okay. What's that?
I'm just trying to think.
I mean, there would probably
They were
be
like
two
parallel.
there would be two compact spaces, but
They're like parallel parked, is kind of how they were, I believe, in the original plan. Like 1, 2.
I'm the only person in the world.
Hey, what is the turnaround on ZBA referrals and these days? Is it 4 to 6 weeks?
Yeah.
What if you were to take that space that you're gonna do the restaurant, instead of doing 2 rooms, you did like one super suite, like this is like the mega room.
because then we would be inviting parties.
Okay, not like family,
I would imagine it would be, you know, I mean, like
I
a
don't
family, like what a 5 or 6, I mean, then it's also, I
It's
would
crazy.
imagine it'd be crazy, yeah.
just an idea.
No, we thought, we did think about a massive suite, but it's you know, on the ground floor too, like near the lobby, it's gonna be like a party, it's just
The
not.
rugby team would be booked for the next.
What's that?
The rugby team would be booked. for the
Yeah,
next 3 years.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's up to your team, your engineer or your lawyer or somebody to propose something that's code compliant or else go get a,
Yeah, I mean, I,
We got
yeah.
right,
1.2.
Listen, you could always make it into the lobby and not do the rooms there right now.
wait, say that again?
You don't have to have a restaurant, you could just do like a lounge for your guests.
Yeah, we do have to, we
Make it
do
a
have,
hangout.
yeah, I mean, there's that, but we also have to activate the space where it actually has some revenue driving properties.
Understandable.
Yeah,
Well, if it were 27 rooms instead of 28, that would get you there, wouldn't it? That would be,
it would, but then we would have just one massive suite again, so.
or something different somewhere else. in the
What if you,
building.
what if you did the suite on in a different section and then you just did regular rooms in that section?
We
went
went
up that
down that
path.
road too, and we know that if it's wherever that massive suite is
That's
gonna
the
be,
problem.
it's gonna be a party and people are gonna be disturbed. We don't really want that reputation as a party hotel. We want the outdoor enthusiasts, you know, the ones that wanna be out on the trail all day and tire themselves out, exactly. And then go party someplace else and come back and go to sleep.
Right.
And to be clear, even the things we're proposing, or we're suggesting they could consider. It would still leave us that 0.2, and we don't even have the discretion to waive that 0.2.
Well, it would, if it were 27 rooms, then it would be 7. And it would be really close to,
0.1, it's still.
yeah.
It's still a point that we
Yeah.
are being told we don't have discretion to waive.
Well, is there a world where I just show you the new plan with the 2 spaces where that landscaping is? I mean, I personally, I like the landscaping, but I don't, you know,
You're saying it's
another
land
3
bank-
months,
It's
it's
land
like
bank spaces.
land bank spaces, correct?
But once we approve that, then that means that at any point you could go and just build that instead of the landscaping. And we would not have any control, approval over that.
Wouldn't we have some special conditions?
You could-
that would-
you could.
that would trigger the activation of those spaces? Like, wouldn't we have like, you know, capacity, some history of capacity constraints or overutilization of the current spaces? That's the way I think those
Yeah, it's-
conditions could look.
things don't usually come back to the planning board, so those would be things that, if you wanted to lay out specific conditions that the building inspector would, you know, to.
You'd have to report X weekends at full parking capacity and the need to activate those spaces, and then they would automatically be activated and not brought back to the planning board. Not ideal, I get.
But the plan, but if the landscaping was being turned into parking lot, just as a matter of course, the building inspector would have to do a site review and code anyway. I'm just trying to figure out what the extra burden is on the building inspector to enforce that obligation.
Oh, I meant more that not that it would be an extra burden, but that it wouldn't be another discretionary decision by the planning board. It would be something we have to lay out now for the building inspector to be able to decide, yeah. I mean, this is, just to remind the board, this is the Gateway District where we've talked about the need to have landscaping,
Yeah.
you know, screening, the parking. We've talked about this with other applicants, so, you know, yeah.
Yeah, it's rare that we're at capacity for parking,
What if it was like a bar down at the restaurant? Just like some.
because then you have to have 2, I think it's 2, they, you know, the SLA and the Gateway District's language in the code don't really play nice in the sandbox. And as a result, you know, for every bar seat that you put in, you have to put in then 5 table seats. So that's a total of 6 seats, which then requires us to have 2 parking spaces for 1 bar seat. So it doesn't work.
So if we were to refer it, it would go on the ZBA's June agenda, and then they would set a hearing for July, right? So that would be the timeline you would be looking at.
I think that right now is kind of the only way I see forward. I'm not comfortable approving the land banks plan. I think that,
Because ultimately, the default option of having two parallel parking spots in that location is something we never agreed would be a good thing.
right.
So it's time. And I don't know if there's risk that ZBA wouldn't approve it, but I would like to recommend that we explain that this has been thoroughly discussed and that we, as a board, resolve to recommend approval of the hotel with 1.2 less spots than the calculation we require.
Yeah, I agree.
And so if they didn't approve that, I mean, we're gonna be back here with two parallel parking spaces.
Or you gotta default to a lounge, or whatever it would take for you to reconfigure the site plan to not need more parking. Because I don't think we're inclined to welcome two more parking spots in that position based on the gateway guidelines, and the amount of consideration that was given to, you know, sightlines and walkway aesthetic and all the factors that to getting that landscaping into that position on the lot. So I know there's business factors in there, but I think you'd have to come back and say, okay, I only need, I don't want to speak for the board. I don't, again, we don't have even the discretion for the 0.2. So you'd have to reduce it by 2. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's a very tricky site and I just don't know what else we can tell you at this point. So, I mean, if there are other options you want to explore, you want to send us, then please do, but I think for tonight's meeting, at least we should refer them to the ZBA. If everyone agrees.
Change his mind and not go.
Exactly, that's what I mean. So like to get a motion to refer PB 2210 to the ZBA and recommend that they approve the parking variance.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Hi.
All right, thanks for taking the time.
Okay.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
There's nothing else. Would like to get a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm gonna stay here all night.
Got this nice big screen TV here.
One question for you guys?
It's off the record.
Yeah, that's fine. In the event, I could find 2 spaces in, there was a plan where we had 2 spaces in the building. Where there was a bay,
Oh, yeah.
Do that.
that could be
In the
for,
building, where does it live?
We could be eliminating 2 rooms, put 2 cars.
no, I mean, there's still a lot of space here. It would go right here.
Where is that?
So,
Are these?
Looks like a hallway.
yeah, this is back of house.
Oh.
So. there's a sidewalk here and the cantilever's over, so.
Where are we looking at? This is the.
This is the south side, this is the north side.
This is the loading area.
Yeah, correct, this is the loading area, right, actually. Yeah, this is the loading area,
Yeah.
exactly.
So. There's all that space in the loading area. Could you make that space parking and do the loading area as some sort of?
I think the fire department needs certain space in front of it, so. It would, you know. I mean, if it was possible and we could put 2 parking spaces inside underneath, that could be count toward employee parking. And obviously, it'd have to be an aesthetically pleasing store.
If it's possible. Try it.
Sure. Okay. And the other thing I was suggesting around the adjacent property is there an easement you could negotiate with the local
Like
business? That's my employee over there.
Caffrey Park, yeah, I'm in touch with Guy, so maybe that could be an option.
And of course, that parking requirement would have to meet that other owner's parking requirement too. They can't give away one
Right.
necessary to their land.
Yeah, makes sense.
But if you could say I have 2 off-site spots for employee parking, that could also be a solution.
Okay. All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.